highway stretched endlessly under Adnan's headlights, a pale ribbon of asphalt swallowed by fog. His engine's steady hum was the only sound breaking the silence of the night. Empty fields lay on either side, moonlight hidden behind thick clouds. He'd been driving for hours without seeing another soul, his eyes heavy when he noticed a figure ahead. On the right shoulder, a woman stood. She was dressed in white, her hair loose, and her arm raised stiffly for a ride. Her pale face was barely visible through the fog, but the stark white of her clothes made her stand out like a ghost. Adnan tightened his grip on the wheel and pressed the gas harder, passing her without slowing down. 10 miles later, Adnan blinked in disbelief. There she was again. Same white dress, same stiff arm, same spot at the side of the road. His heart began to pound. He hadn't taken a turn, hadn't circled back. How could she be there again? His throat dried as he drove past, pretending not to look. The third time he saw her, Adnan's nerves broke. Against his better judgment, he slowed down and stopped. The woman opened the door without a word and slid into the passenger seat. Her skin looked pale in the dim dashboard glow. Her face turned away, eyes hidden under her hair. The silence between them was unbearable, and yet she never spoke. Adnan dared a glance into the side mirror. Empty. He snapped his head toward the seat. It was vacant. The woman was gone, but the seatbelt across the cushion was still buckled, slowly retracting. His breath caught in his chest, and a chill rolled down his spine. The CB radio crackled to life, static filling the cab. Then, a man's voice whispered through the noise, calm and deliberate. "Don't give her a ride. She never leaves." Adnan's chest tightened. He flicked the headlights brighter, straining through the fog. That's when his blood ran cold. Up ahead, on the back of his own truck's trailer, clinging to the metal door with bare hands, was the woman in white. Her head turned unnaturally, eyes black, smile stretching too wide. The CB sputtered once more before dying into static. "She's with you now." Adnan slammed the brakes, but it was too late. Jack had been on the road all night. The highway stretched endlessly across the desert. No cars in sight, no radio signal, just the rumble of his engine. His fuel light blinked red and his stomach twisted. He hadn't seen a station for nearly an hour. Just when the worry started settling in, a faint glow appeared on the horizon. Neon, flickering, a gas station. It looked old, tucked away off the road. The canopy sagged, paint peeling, but it was the only light for miles. Jack sighed in relief and pulled in. Jack climbed out, boots crunching on gravel. It was dead quiet. No bugs, no wind, just the buzz of the neon sign above. The office door creaked open. A man stepped out slowly. His uniform was faded, the kind you'd expect from a 1960s postcard, blue coveralls with a stitched name, tag so worn it was unreadable. His skin was pale, waxy. He moved stiff, like his body didn't quite fit him. "Need a fill-up?" the man asked, his voice flat, almost rehearsed. Jack hesitated but nodded. He didn't have a choice. The pump clanked to life. Jack leaned against his truck, but something felt wrong. The pumps were coated in thick dust, like no one had touched them in years. The price per gallon window was stuck at $29, yet the nozzle in his tank dripped with fresh fuel. The more Jack looked around, the worse it got. Cobwebs stretched across the office window. The air reeked of damp rot, and the sign above flickered like it was on its last breath. The attendant caught him staring and grinned. His teeth were too white, too perfect. Finally, the pump clicked. The attendant handed Jack a receipt. The paper was brittle, yellowed like something out of an old archive. Jack glanced down. The date printed on it was August 17th, 1965. His breath caught. When he looked back up, the lights flickered. The pumps vanished. The office dissolved into blackness. Jack was suddenly sitting in his truck. Engine off, parked on the shoulder of an empty road. No gas station. No lights, no attendant. Just silence. He looked down at his hand. The receipt was still there. And in his side mirror, for just a second, he saw the pale attendant sitting in the passenger seat, grinning at him. The night stretched endless across the interstate. Rick Dalton, a long-haul trucker, fought to keep his eyes open as the miles dragged on. The yellow lines blurred beneath his headlights. Out of habit, he reached for the CB radio, the old static crackling through the cab like a familiar companion. He turned the dial, hoping for chatter to break the silence. At first it was just static. Then, like a whisper buried deep inside, it formed words. Rick. His name, clear as day. Rick froze, hand on the mic. He hadn't spoken. No one knew he was out here. He tried to laugh it off, but the voice returned, this time steady, confident. Left turn coming, take it. Rick's blood ran cold. He hadn't said where he was. No one could see him. Yet, as he rolled forward, the road curved exactly as the voice described. Every bend, every hill, the voice narrated in real time, like it was sitting right beside him. Then the voice dropped lower, almost urgent. Don't stop at the next truck stop. Rick's pulse spiked. He glanced at the clock. 2:43 a.m., the kind of hour when even shadows felt alive. Outside, a faded sign appeared. Truck stop, 2 miles. He told himself it was nonsense, just radio bleed. He needed fuel, needed coffee. So he turned off at the stop, pulling into the truck stop lot. But when he parked, his heart froze. The entire lot was empty. No rigs, no cars. No lights inside the diner. Just his truck, humming in the dark. He shut off the engine. Silence swallowed the cab. Then the CB crackled alive one last time. The same voice whispered, calm now. Now you can't leave. Rick's head whipped toward the radio. But it wasn't the CB light glowing anymore. The passenger seat light flicked on, slowly. And someone was sitting there. A figure grinning at him in the half-light. Every night run, Tom Harris drove the same stretch of interstate. And every night, his truck sputtered and stalled right as he passed mile marker 66. The headlights dimmed. The engine coughed but never fully died. By the time he coasted past, everything returned to normal. He told himself it was just bad wiring. But deep down, it felt like the road itself was holding its breath. But tonight was different. Tonight, as he rolled past 66, the truck slowed almost to a stop. Then, out of the woods, a shape stepped onto the shoulder. A figure, tall and still, face lost in shadow. It didn't wave. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching his truck idle down to a crawl. Tom hit the gas. Engine roared back to life. Relief hit him for a second, until a sharp knock rattled his side window. His head snapped left. Nothing. The road beside him was empty. Wind whispering across the asphalt. He swallowed hard, refusing to look again. Then in the corner of his eye, movement. The passenger side window. Tom turned and froze. A reflection stared back at him from inside the glass. A man sitting calmly in the passenger seat, eyes pale, mouth curved in a grin. But when Tom whipped his head around, the seat was empty. Panic surged. Tom slammed the accelerator, but this time the truck refused. The engine screamed, gears grinding, but the wheels stayed locked. The headlights flickered, the cab shaking violently, as if something outside had clamped the rig to the ground. By morning, the highway was quiet again. A tow truck pulled onto the shoulder at mile 66, dust rising around its tires. The driver climbed down, expecting a breakdown. But Tom's truck was sitting perfectly fine. Engine off, driver's door shut. When he peered inside, the seat was empty. The key still dangled in the ignition. On the passenger seat, however, lay Tom's CB radio, still hissing with static. The tow driver frowned, reached inside to shut it off. But then, through the static, a voice whispered, low and stretched, almost like a chuckle. Another one for the ride. The driver froze, staring at the reflection in the windshield. In the glass, for a split second, he swore he saw Tom sitting in the passenger seat, pale eyes staring back, grinning. When he blinked, it was gone. The cab was empty again. But behind him, on the shoulder by the woods, the mile marker stood tall, and next to it, a dark figure waited. The night highway vanished under a rolling wall of fog. It wasn't the normal mist you sometimes hit on long drives. This was thick, pale, endless. Headlights barely cut more than a few feet ahead. Daniel gripped the wheel, knuckles pale. He'd driven rough weather before, but this felt different. Like the road itself had disappeared, leaving him floating. Just when his nerves began to crack, he saw them, dim lights glowing ahead in the haze. A line of trucks, maybe half a dozen, rolling steady through the fog. Relief washed over him. He wasn't alone anymore. Daniel matched their speed, slotting his rig behind them. Their trailers glided like shadows, never swerving, never slowing. Good, he muttered, tension easing from his chest. Convoy driving always felt safer. More eyes on the road. He flipped on his CB radio. Convoy ahead, you got room for one more? Static. No reply. He tried again. Nothing but the hiss of dead air. Still, he pressed closer, comforted by their steady presence. Miles slipped by and something gnawed at Daniel. Not one truck in front ever braked. No turn signals, no lane changes. Every single one drove flawless. Too flawless. He rolled the window down slightly. The fog pressed in, cold and damp. For a split second, he thought he saw shapes moving inside the mist, walking alongside the trucks. His grip on the wheel tightened. Daniel grabbed the CB again. Hey, anyone hear me? You guys up there? Static, then something faint. Not words, just breathing. Long, heavy, inhuman breathing. Daniel froze, staring at the radio. The sound filled the cab. He slammed it off. When he looked up, the trucks were gone. The fog parted just enough to reveal the highway ahead. Empty, silent. He stomped the brakes, but his headlights shone on nothing but road and mist. Not a single taillight. Daniel's breath came fast. He scanned every inch of the foggy road, alone. He started driving again, heart hammering. But then, the mirror. In his side mirror, faint headlights glowed. One pair, then two, then many, all lined behind him. But when he turned his head to look back, there was nothing. The highway was empty. Only in the mirror. They followed. The fuel gauge dipped near empty as David's rig groaned along the deserted two-lane highway. He hadn't seen another soul for miles, and the night felt endless. Just when panic began to creep in, he spotted a glowing neon sign ahead through the trees. Gas, open. He pulled into the old roadside station, its flickering lights casting long shadows across cracked pavement. The place looked forgotten, yet alive. As David parked near the pump, a tall, wiry old man shuffled out from the small office. His uniform was faded, cap pulled low, yet his smile was warm, almost too warm. Evening, driver. You're lucky. We don't get many folks through here this late. David exhaled in relief, nodding. The attendant began pumping gas, chatting about the weather, about how lonely the road could be. His voice had a calm, almost hypnotic tone. When David reached for his card, the attendant shook his head. Cash only. The price on the pump screen blinked low, too low. Half what it should have been. David frowned but pulled a couple bills from his wallet. The old man's hand, when it brushed his, was ice cold. Tank full. David tipped his cap and waved goodbye. The attendant gave a slow, stiff wave back, smile fixed like it was painted on. As David pulled away, headlights cut across the office window. For a split second, the reflection showed the attendant still waving, but there was no one standing there. At a diner the next morning, David mentioned the old station to another trucker over coffee. The man froze, fork halfway to his mouth. That place? Son, that gas station burned down years ago. Took the whole building with it. Nobody's worked there since. David's stomach dropped. His hands trembled around the coffee mug. David sat in his cab, the hum of the diner parking lot fading into silence. He tried to reason with himself. It must have been a dream. A mix of exhaustion and the lonely road. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. A receipt, sitting neatly in the cup holder. His throat went dry as he picked it up with trembling fingers. The paper was crisp, the ink clear. Total, $23.16. Paid. Date, last night, 2:47 a.m. His heart pounded. The trucker's words replayed in his head. That place burned down years ago. A sudden draft swept through the cab, carrying the faint smell of gasoline and smoke. David whipped around. Every mirror showed the empty lot around him. But in the rearview mirror, just for an instant, the old attendant was standing by the back of his truck, cap pulled low, smiling that same fixed, unnatural smile. When David turned, the space was empty. The receipt slipped from his shaking hand and fluttered to the floor. Jake, a long-haul trucker, signed the papers half-heartedly as the yard worker slapped them onto his clipboard. The cargo manifest said, "Empty trailer." But when the worker shut the metal doors, Jake heard the echo of chains clattering inside. He shrugged it off. He had miles to cover and no patience for oddities. Still, the word empty stuck in his head as he pulled out onto the midnight highway. Hours later, the night pressed heavy on the empty stretch of road. Jake flicked on the radio for company when a faint, sharp sound reached his ears, scratching, like claws dragging across metal. His eyes darted to the rearview mirrors, but the road was silent and barren. The sound grew louder, a scraping rhythm that seemed to come from inside the trailer. His grip on the steering wheel tightened. The scratching turned violent. Suddenly, bang! Something slammed against the inside wall of the trailer, rattling the entire rig. Jake swore under his breath, the wheel jerking as another blow shook the metal frame. He slowed down, heart pounding, glancing into the mirrors as though he might glimpse something trying to punch its way out. Unable to take it, Jake pulled onto the shoulder, grabbing his flashlight. The cold air bit into him as he stepped out, the night too quiet. He circled to the back, every footstep crunching gravel louder than it should. His hands shook as he unlatched the doors, the chains inside rattling again like they knew he was there. The doors creaked open. A blast of cold, stagnant air rushed out. Jake lifted the flashlight. The beam cut through thick blackness. Chains dangled loosely from the ceiling, swinging slightly though there was no wind. Then something shifted in the shadows. A low growl reverberated, not animal, not human. Jake's breath caught as two faint, glowing eyes blinked back at him. Jake dropped the flashlight and bolted. His boots pounded gravel as he scrambled back into the cab, slamming the door shut. Panting, he reached for the ignition, only to freeze. The steering wheel was already gripped by a pair of pale, unfamiliar hands. Slowly, his eyes followed the arms upward. A figure sat in the driver's seat, head bowed low as if waiting for him. Its skin was gray and cracked, its mouth stretched into a grin far too wide. Without a word, it turned the key. The truck roared to life.